Let's pray. Teach us, O God, by your word and spirit. Help us to hear, know, and live the gospel, so that we might proclaim in word and deed the good news that you offer us this day. A message of peace to the whole community and love with faith through Christ our Lord. Amen. The New Testament reading this morning comes from the book of Hebrews, 11th chapter, 29th verse, through the 12th chapter, 2nd verse. By faith, the people passed through the Red Sea as on dry land. But when the Egyptians tried to do so, they were drowned. By faith, the walls of Jericho fell after the army had marched around them for 7 days. By faith, the prostitute Rahab, because she welcomed the spies, was not killed with those who were disobedient. And what more shall I say? I do not have time to tell you about Gideon, Barak, Samson, Jephthah, about David and Samuel, and the prophets, who through faith conquered kingdoms, administered justice, and gained what was promised, who shut the mouths of lions, quenched the fury of the flames, and escaped the edge of the sword, whose weakness was turned to strength, and who became powerful in battle and routed foreign armies. Women received back their dead, raised to life again. There were others who were tortured, refusing to be released so that they might gain an even better resurrection. Some faced jeers and flogging, and even chains and imprisonment. They were put to death by stoning. They were sawed in two. They were killed by the sword. They went about in sheepskins and goatskins, destitute, persecuted. The world was not worthy of them. They wandered in deserts and mountains, living in caves and holes in the ground. These were all commended for their faith, yet none of them received what had been promised, since God had planned something better for us, so that only together with us would they be made perfect. Therefore, since we are surrounded by such a great cloud of witnesses, let us throw off everything that hinders and the sin that so easily entangles, and let us run with perseverance the race marked out for us, fixing our eyes on Jesus, the pioneer and perfecter of faith. For the joy set before him, he endured the cross, scorning its shame, and sat down at the right hand of the throne of God.
The gospel lesson comes from Luke 12, verses 49 through 56. And this is Jesus speaking. I came to bring fire to the earth, and how I wish it were already kindled. I have a baptism with which to be baptized, and what stress I am under until it is completed. Do you think that I have come to bring peace to the earth? No, I tell you, but rather division. From now on, 5 in one household will be divided, 3 against 2 and 2 against 3. They will be divided, father against son and son against father, mother against daughter and daughter against mother, mother-in-law against her daughter-in-law, and daughter-in-law against mother-in-law. He also said to the crowds, when you see a cloud rising in the west, you immediately say it's going to rain, and so it happens. And when you see the south wind blowing, you see there will be scorching heat, and it happens. You hypocrites! You know how to interpret the appearance of earth and sky, but why do you not know how to interpret the present time? This is the word of God for us, the people of God.
Thanks be to God.
Would you pray with me? Lord, divide us if it is your will. But above all, I ask that we do not seek unity, but seek truth. To seek righteousness and holiness, and not simply peace. Lord, may the words of my mouth and the meditations of all of our hearts be holy and acceptable to you, O God, our rock and our redeemer. Amen. I want to meditate on a picture here for a minute, and I realize I could have put it up on the screen, but I'm a little more low-tech than that. And I want us to think about this picture. You've probably seen it before, because it's been hanging in the church for years, probably. And even if you haven't, you've seen a photo like it. It's not a photo, it's a picture. It's Jesus. He's carrying some sheep. And isn't it remarkable? There's at least two other pictures in the church I could find that had a guy who looked just like this, hanging up. Isn't it remarkable that at some point we all ended up with this shared image of Jesus? And I actually think that's a good thing. I think it's really important for us to remember that Jesus has a face. He has hands and feet. He has arms to embrace someone in. And it's beautiful and remarkable that we all have this shared image. And so I don't want to throw shade at the image. I'm not here just to make fun of the picture, but I wonder, what does this Jesus that you know, these images of Jesus, sometimes he's praying, a lot of times he's carrying sheep, what does that communicate to you? What does that tell you about Jesus? What does this Jesus kind of look like? What does it remind you? What does it make you think of?
Caring.
Caring. Yeah, that's right. He seemed very caring, clearly, especially with the sheep.
Gentle.
Gentle. Yeah. Compassionate.
Peace.
Peace. That's right. Yeah. I love this Jesus. He's comfortable. He seems like the kind of guy you would want to come and hang out with. You know, give you a big hug and sit and hang out and just be really peaceful, really serene. But I'll tell you, the first thing I actually usually notice is how clean he looks. I mean, this guy has no knots in his hair, no food in his beard. He's walking barefoot in this one. I've done a little barefoot walking. Your feet do not stay clean very long. A lot of times this Jesus can seem like he hovers just about 6 inches above the ground. You know, he's a little otherworldly, which communicates something about who Jesus is. This Jesus is nice. This Jesus, he would never talk about politics or religion at the dinner table. He's comfortable. And this Jesus would never, ever say anything like, I came to bring fire to the earth, and how I wish it were already kindled. Do you think that I've come to bring peace to the earth? No, I tell you, but rather division. Jesus. But we know that Jesus got upset sometimes, right? I mean, you know that he turns over the tables in the temple. And Jesus fights with people sometimes. He does. Isn't it interesting? Jesus doesn't spend a lot of time condemning sinners. I see a lot of Christians interested in really condemning sinners. Do you know who Jesus tends to fight with?
The Pharisees.
The Pharisees. He fights with me. He fights with the religious leaders, the good folks, the good religious folks. That's who Jesus fights with. The people who think they've got it figured out. This Jesus in this scripture, it feels real. Because there are things to get upset about. There are things to get mad about, to be upset about, especially when there is injustice. When there are money changers in the temple, or people enforcing rules and not following them, or just thinking the rules are the point. There are things to be upset about. And by the way, this like a little bit of food in his beard or tangle in his hair, this Jesus seems to see the world as it is. I mean, from now on, 5 in one household will be divided, 3 against 2 and 2 against 3. That's Thanksgiving. Right? world we live in. A strange thing about history, especially the past 1,000, 1,500 years or so, is that in the western part of the world, you could assume most people were probably Christians. The people in power, the people around you, you could assume that everyone was a Christian. And that world seems to be coming to an end. But I wonder if that might be a good thing. Because when you can assume everyone's a Christian, you assume that it means I can be comfortable and be a Christian. Jesus doesn't promise a lot of comfort for the disciples. He doesn't promise that they'll be comfortable. He sends them out without a staff. There's something at stake. And so this Jesus is pointing us to a real thing and saying that maybe we shouldn't be so comfortable. We live in a world that is very often uncomfortable. I don't know if any of you watched the General Conference earlier this year of the United Methodist Church. I kind of hope you didn't, because I did, and it was an uncomfortable thing to watch. It was hard to watch. I have trouble with confrontation, and so just watching that is stressful for me. But what's remarkable is how often people in that circumstance prayed for unity. Now, I'll confess to all of you, I hope the church stays together. It's to my benefit, and I think that having a large worldwide church is a benefit to the mission we can do. But Jesus is telling us here that unity is not the prayer we should be praying. Because we can all be united and be wrong. We could all agree on something, and it could still be the wrong thing. And so the prayer is not for unity, it is for righteousness. It is for the correct thing, it is for following Jesus. And so I wonder whether the division is actually a good thing. Now, when done respectfully and with love, recognizing that everyone is our brother and sister, I would rather have a church and a world, by the way, because in the world, people pray for peace all the time. They say, oh, we need to reach across the aisle, which may be true, but there is still something at stake. I would rather have a world where we conflict than a world where no one cares at all. The thing about this confrontation, the thing about the division we experience in the Methodist Church and in the world, is that at the very least, people care. People care. People passionately want to make the church a better place and to make the world a better place. And we disagree about how to do it, but at least we care. I would rather have a world where people care than an apathetic world where we were all united. Because it does matter. When God comes to earth, there's no middle ground. There's no hanging out in the middle. It's 3 against 2 and 2 against 3. But the thing about that is that half of us are wrong. And part of what Jesus is pointing out is that half of us will be wrong, and part of this division might be asking whether we're wrong. I feel pretty strongly about some of my opinions. I do. And yet, Jesus challenges the good religious folks. Jesus is always going to poke and prod me, and hopefully lead me to ask, could I be wrong? The last thing Jesus says, he says to the crowds, when you see a cloud rising in the west, you immediately say it is going to rain, and so it happens. And when you see the south wind blowing, you say there will be scorching heat, and it happens. You know how to interpret the appearance of earth and sky. Why do you not know how to interpret the present time? He compares the division in the world to the weather. don't you see the sign? The division is a sign that God is still in charge. Jesus called it. Even the divided world we live in is actually a sign that God is still in control. That's what he says. Division is going to happen, and that is actually a sign that God is still coming and the new heaven and earth is still on its way. It's a sign of the storm rolling in. God is still in control. And so the gift of the church is that we can conflict in love. We can passionately conflict because we might be wrong. Because ultimately there's only one truth, and that is in Christ. And so in the church, we can disagree because storms pass. And on the other hand, there's a rainbow. And there is peace, and there is a new heaven and a new earth coming. All this division, all this conflict, it's just a sign of that ultimate peace. Isn't that a wonderful thing? And so today, as a response, I found just a wonderful, it's a hymn, but we just have the verses in the hymnal that Charles Wesley wrote that I think still rings true today. And that is called On Earth We Now Lament to See. And so I'm going to read, there's 4 stanzas of this. I'm going to read one, and between it we're going to sing the chorus of, I hope you know this song, Let There Be Peace on Earth. You all know this chorus. Can we play it once? Let's sing it once too. To see, with floods of wickedness overflowed, with violence, wrong, and cruelty, one wide extended field of blood, where men like fiends each other tear in all the hellish rage of war. As listed on Abaddon's side, they mangle their own flesh and slay. Tophet is moved and opens wide its mouth for its enormous prey, and myriads sink beneath the grave and plunge into the flaming wave. Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me. O might the universal friend, this havoc of his creatures see, bid our unnatural discord end, declare us reconciled in thee. Write kindness on our inward parts, and chase the murderer from our hearts. Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me. Who now against each other rise, the nations of the earth constrain, to follow after peace and prize the blessings of thy righteous reign, the joys of unity to prove, the paradise of perfect love. Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me. Thanks be to God. And we're going to keep singing, but we're going to stand for this one. This is a song called O God of Every Nation.